Hello friends, today we're going to be talking about the conjunction of an exalted Sun with a debilitated Saturn in the sign of Aries, and of course with an influence of Neptune and Venus because they are two in that sign. And I want us to know there's a lot of contradiction when we get an exalted Sun and a debilitated Saturn together. And what I want us to realize in this video is that there's a version of us that wants to keep us bound and obedient. And if we're not aware of this, we can spend a lifetime defending this facet of our own detriment. This is the version of us that is about our comfort. It's about protecting our sense of ease and what we become accustomed to. It's about protecting an identity that was shaped not by truth, but by what made us feel acceptable. And not only this theme pertains to this conjunction, this current transit, but to the theme of 2026. This year wants to rearrange the past. Because when we look at the sky in 2026, we're seeing something very unusual. All the outer planets and the generational planets, as well as the nodes, they're all moving into fire and air. And we have to remember fire and air is about movement, expression, and thought. It's about action and independence. They're saying something about this concept of freedom. So this year is about breaking free and becoming free. So this conjunction is making us confront this question right now. What does it mean to be free? Especially when your mind, your body, your emotions, and your identity have been shaped by a system, and a system that was never designed for our freedom. So I want us to explore these concepts and to see how it's unfolding itself in this moment through this transit. But before going into the depth of this video, I just want to let you know we're not done with the transits in March, and there are plenty of videos coming up for April. And if you want to catch the upcoming videos, please do remember to subscribe and press that notification bell so YouTube notifies you when those videos are released. Now let's get to the depth of the video. So as I just mentioned, the Sun is exalted in the sign of Aries and Saturn's debilitated. And we have to remember there's something even deeper happening here, because in the planetary friendships, Sun and Saturn are each other's enemies. Especially, the Sun is the arch enemy of Saturn. So what we're going to experience here is absolute tension. This is not two friends that are stuck in the same room and have to share a same space. These guys are at conflict. So that's the kind of dialogue they're going to have. This is going to be about some sort of a confrontation. And it's meant to reveal something very deep within us. It's meant to reveal some uncomfortable truths. And I want us to start here with the Sun, go through the layers of the video so that you understand why we're making these arguments. First and foremost, the Sun represents the self. It's our authority, our self-esteem, and our confidence. The Sun is our right to exist. And that's because not only the Sun represents the self, it also represents the soul. And we have to realize the Sun in Aries, when we say it's exalted, is in the seat of its power. So when the Sun gets here, the Sun never asks for permission to act. In Aries, the Sun is the commander-in-chief. That means the Sun here commands, initiates, leads, and asserts itself unapologetically. The Sun here is representing the power to be and to become. And now let's consider Saturn for a moment. Saturn is about restriction, limitations, boundaries, negation. Saturn is also the planet of time and karma. It's also about our entrenched histories because it represents time, but it's saying something more about the past and how we're arriving to the future, the concept of karma and the cause and effects of what have we done in the past that we're getting its results today. So it's talking about everything that we have already been. And it's also talking about everything that has solidified in us, things that have become entrenched. Saturn is a dry planet. It hardens things. So Saturn here is representing our past conditioning in a lot of ways. It's everything that we've been taught, especially in the ways that we strive to fit in confined ways and dynamics. It's about how we've been conditioned to behave, how we ought to exist, and what's acceptable to the collective and to the status quo. Saturn is not a risky planet. It actually is about the collective. So all these entrenched ways, and when we're talking about karma, we're talking about the samskara of the mind, the pathways that have already been made on the mind and how we just tend to mindlessly travel through them. And I wanted to remember Saturn represents common people, everyday people. It represents states of subserviency and even slavery. So when I'm talking about Saturn in this conjunction, we're getting to see how we have been restricted and how we restrict ourselves to fit in, the way that we omit parts of ourselves, negate it. And I also want you to remember Saturn in the sign of Aries struggles because it's debilitated. And when a planet's debilitated, that means it's losing its power. But it doesn't lose its power in the way that we like to think here, that Saturn's not going to do Saturn things in Aries. Saturn's always going to do Saturn things, but it's just going to have a different kind of a flair. For instance, let's just take the sign of Aries into consideration. Aries is not about conformity. Saturn is. Saturn doesn't have power. So Aries is going to challenge this notion of conformity in us. Saturn likes to wait, pause for a long time. Aries does not wait. Nor does Aries care about past traditions. Aries doesn't negotiate with the status quo. In fact, it wants to birth something new into existence. Aries wants to burst into existence against all odds. So in this conjunction, just in this sign, we're struggling against what it means to be and to become. And Saturn's going to face the same challenges with the Sun. So we're feeling the tension of emergence. We're going to start to notice that there are certain things in our life that is holding us back. And because the Sun is more powerful here than Saturn, Sun's going to provoke Saturn. And it's provoking Saturn to reveal something about its own quality, which is about inducing fear. The Sun actually wants Saturn to evoke this fear within us and for us to start feeling it. And this is because the Sun is the brightest planet in the sky. So it's representing our vision and our seeing. And the Sun is a Sattvic planet, and it's about truth. Sun's doing this so that we see a particular truth about ourselves. So in this moment, I want you to be aware, a lot of fears are coming up. It's almost like purging through fear. And much of this fear is related to the ways that we need to feel comfortable in life. What the Sun wants us to see is what kind of opiate of the masses we've been consuming just to feel comfortable in our life. It wants us to see our sedation mechanism. And I want you to know that the Sun's going to use the presence of Venus in this sign too. Venus is also in exile. We're not talking about the most powerful planet. So the Sun has control over everything in the sign of Aries right now because of his exaltation. And it's going to use these planets, co-opt their qualities to bring forth the truth. It wants us to understand the untruth that's been entrenched in us. And Venus has a lot to do with luxury, pleasure, having our desires met. So it's very much related to this concept of comfort, which the Sun wants to expose right now. The Sun wants us to see how we have come to worship happiness, even though when we're talking about Saturn here. And that's because happy people never question status quo. And Saturn is the status quo. And when happy people feel happy, they do not revolt against the status quo. And if you think about it, look at our culture. Happiness is preached to the masses. And whatever the message is about how to be happy, people will adapt to it. And from childhood, if we look back, these messages have been delivered to us in different ways. First in cartoons, and then in Disney movies, and then in movies, now in social media. Be positive, be grateful, be content, and just accept what is. And if you look deep into this, there's an underlying message here. Don't ask why you feel empty. And don't ask who benefits from your emptiness. And don't ask why obedience is rewarded more than truth. We've been told to just breathe, smile, consume, and repeat. And now with social media, share it with other people, just sell it for us, advertise the stream. This was conditioned in us as the good life. But the time has arrived. The sky is shifting where these things do not feel good to us anymore. We're starting to understand something about our truth, and this conditioning and its message doesn't resonate anymore. And in this moment, our conditioning of the past is not aligning with the freedom that the sign of Aries wants. It cannot accommodate it. And we have to remember, this is a dignified Sun that wants freedom itself to become our truth. And so Sun is going to keep on pushing Saturn, provoking Saturn to reveal these narratives that have been solidified in us. And we have to remember, Saturn denotes control. Saturn's actually the way that we have come to learn how to negate and limit ourselves, internalize those external stories as our own way of being in the world. We have learned how to keep ourselves small and in bounds. So Sun right now wants Saturn to reveal a lifetime of this conditioning. We got it from our families, we got it from our peers, at work, even in our relationships. So this Sun is saying, Saturn, Sun, because Saturn is Sun's son in the Vedic tradition. I want you to reveal your subversive way, and you cannot say no. I know you love saying no, but in this moment, I have power over you. I command you. I need you to reveal how you, the planet of naysaying, have conspired to make happiness the highest goal. And I want you to reveal this so that the self sees that this organization that you have created around this idea has actually made the self static, lethargic, subservient, and the way it's put it in a state of inertia. I want the self to see to what extent it goes to avoid conflict, disruption, and it does this at any cost. The Sun wants the self of us to understand this and what it's done to us. This Sun wants us to see how we have renamed things, how weakness has become our peace. When we say, I want to be peaceful, we just want to disengage. Just don't bother me. Don't come in my space. Don't confront me. This is not real life. Like, we've come to see passivity and its laziness as forgiveness. True forgiveness demands responsibility. It doesn't just say, oh, I forgive, so I release myself and I release the other person. No, you're actually becoming a person who's conspiring in the world not to hold someone who has done something wrong accountable. It is that accountability that makes the other realize that they've done something wrong. But no, we just passively forgive because I just can't deal with it. I just want to be free. I don't want to carry its burden. Sometimes we have to carry some burdens. We've even gone so far to think of subserviency as our wisdom and our strength. Sun wants Saturn to show us how we call our submission and our surrender our sense of maturity, when in reality, we are not fighting for anything. We are not in command of our life. We just lay down and accept. With the Sun here and the way that it's provoking Saturn to reveal all of these things, we're beginning to realize this happiness project that we've been sold. This happiness project that has co-opted spiritual schools of thought, intellectual methods and ways of thinking, all of it. It's co-opted all of it. And it's sold it to us so that we become manageable, not that we become powerful in our life, not that we can have a full expression of ourselves. This is why the Sun is provoking Saturn, so we see all of these things. The Sun is here to rise and to rule its domain. And in our lives, our domain is the self. Like, we think we have to rule things out in the world. We got to rule this. And in this moment, with Saturn being here, we know that this rising and ruling will require confrontation and friction. The Sun is actually summoning up all of our strength in the sign of Aries so that we fight these entrenched ways. So as you can see, this is not a comfortable conjunction. The Sun wants us to see what's right and true, that sattvic nature of the Sun. And it's doing all of this so that we understand what the nature of our higher self is. And we have to realize, for us to arrive to this higher understanding, there has to be a willingness in us that's willing to disturb the old life and the old self. So there has to be a willingness in us not only to understand the ways that we've been constrained, but how we have participated in constricting and confining ourselves too. And I was saying this in the last video with that Jupiter and Mars conjunct. A lot of times we conspire in our own repression and oppression in this life. Yes, it's coming from external forces, but we do it ourselves. But this right now is showing us how we've chosen comfort over truth in ways that we've remained silent and small to preserve our belonging. And you know, another thing that makes this conjunction very difficult is that this comfort also gives us a sense of safety. So the fact that all of these feelings and realizations are emerging, we feel unsafe in our life. It was giving us a sense of peace and stability because it was giving us a sense of predictability. But if we actually pay attention in this moment, beneath all of it, there's just this loud dissatisfaction. We're feeling that we've negotiated something away, that something's not right in our life. And I also want us to realize we have another factor in this conjunction of Saturn and Sun, which is Neptune, because as soon as Sun entered the sign of Aries, it hit Neptune. And then with this conjunction, there's going to be a moment where the Sun is sandwiched between Neptune and Saturn, and then it's going to pass and just be conjunct Saturn. And it's still going to be within that 5-degree orb. So Neptune is a player here. And again, because the Sun is exalted here, it's going to have power over Neptune too. So it's going to provoke Neptune in the same way to show us our illusions of the things that we've done for the sake of fitting in. It's trying to show us the pleasure trap, how we have kept this dream alive. We have also conspired in keeping it entrenched. The illusion is giving us, or was giving us, a temporary feeling of relief all the time. That's why I use that Karl Marx term of opiate of the masses, just to subdue, just be comfortable, you're totally cool, thinking you're free, but in reality, you are not free. The Sun is showing us this is not the joy of a free person. It's the relief of a person who's learned how not to be responsible for their life. For their light is showing us that this is the joy of a slave, not a free person. And the Sun wants Neptune to also illuminate another illusion that we've been carrying, which is to avoid pain. So it's going to show us how all the methods that are introduced to us through our socialization, through culture, family, education, to retreat from discomfort of life, from difficult conversations, necessary endings, demanding life projects. We'll come to see anything that's demanding in life, we've been treating it as a threat. The Sun wants us to see that you have not built a life that's been based on choice, it's been based on avoidance. The Sun doesn't want this. This is a Sun that's getting directional strength and is taking the reign of life, and it's the commander-in-chief. This is what the Sun wants from us right now. That's why the Sun is doing this. And I want you to know, the Sun is a mild malefic. So it's not a full-on malefic like Mars and Saturn, but Sun will do things in a very firm kind of a way too. So it's not like Sun's going to come with Saturn and it's going to start petting Saturn and give it warmth, and then the ice of Saturn melts. No, it's going to be firm and a hard kind of a conjunction. In general, the Sun, because it wants to show us what it means to be free, it's going to show how we have taken the external cages of the world, taken it on the inside, and have conspired with the external world to keep ourselves in a cage. And you can read the subtext behind what I'm saying, which has to do with power relations. Again, I've been talking about this for a month now. And if we look at the world around us, this is what's happening right now too. Everything about these power struggles and power dynamics, imposition of power and the need to free yourself from imposition of power. The Sun doesn't want us to be passive agents anymore. And to mention again, the Sun is sattvic. It wants to maintain the balance of things. The Sun is ultimately an agent that's life-giving and life-preserving. The Sun here right now, as hard as these lessons are going to be, is not about breaking us. It wants to correct things within us that doesn't allow us to be ourselves, to be the soul that we are. At its core, because it's in the sign of Aries too, it wants to show us what it means to be free, what freedom truly means. And the Sun has a lot to do with responsibility, reliability. So the Sun wants to show us freedom is not the ability to feel good. A lot of people want to be free to feel good. They have no idea what they're asking for. Freedom without responsibility is like being in space without a reference point and just tumbling away. Even freedom needs an anchor. Freedom has to be able to align itself with truth also, which allows us to be free. That's where freedom is. And we all know to be truthful often in this life means to be uncomfortable, to make other people feel uncomfortable. That truth can even disturb our own lives and our own self. Sometimes some truth about ourselves is revealed to us and is freaking disturbing, but its realization eventually frees us. Ultimately, freedom comes with responsibility. The freedom of Aries becomes dignified when the Sun is there because the Sun is the most responsible planet. So that freedom becomes responsible and dignified. It becomes about choosing life consciously. Freedom here is not, I'm going to go do that because I feel like it, because that thing looks better to me now. No, this is not how Sun and Aries operates. So what I want us to pay attention to the kind of questions that are being posed internally, and maybe even by the external world around us. Where in your life, in this very moment, are you choosing comfort over truth? This is a huge question right now, especially with Venus and Neptune still in this sign. Well, Neptune's going to be here for a long time. I want you to think about where you avoid necessary confrontation in life, where you're maintaining this identity that doesn't actually reflect the truth of you, where you're calling your passivity your peace. Because what needs to break down right now is not our lives. It's the agreements, the invisible agreements that we've made that is actually diminishing our lives and ourselves. But first, we need to figure out how to break down these chains that are holding us. And Saturn is representing that chain right now. A lifetime of conditioning, a lifetime of saying no to ourselves, and yet feeling like we have to buy into the narrative that's been sold, the expectations of the collective that are around us. It's made us very far from who we truly are. And we're almost getting to the end of the video. And before closing, I would like to ask you to like, share, and subscribe. And please do comment. I want to know how you are grappling with this moment. This is not a light conjunction. Let me know how you define freedom. What does the free version of you look like? What's holding you back? What's holding you down right now? And what do you think you need to do to set yourself free? And you know what? To set yourself free so that you can live yourself and what you are unapologetically. I don't know if you realize this or not, but to live unapologetically without violating other people, it's one of the hardest things we can do in this life. And of course, if you want a reading of this transit or just to understand your birth charts, everything that you've experienced, why you've experienced how you have arrived to where you are, and what the purpose of this life is, the path forward is, you can go to my website for more information at parisayazdi.com, or you can go to the description box below. I have my email there if you want to contact me directly. And you can also find articles and more on my website. And now to close. So this conjunction has a lot to do with seeing. And this Sun in Aries is ready to act, is ready to initiate. It wants to move us and our lives forward. It's ready to give shape to our truth with a capital T, the truth of what we are and what we're made of. But the Sun within us needs to overcome the Saturn within us first. The Sun, through Saturn, is showing us how the way that we are unfree has been solidified within us. Where did it all start? What was it for? It wants to see where old structures have a hold on us, where the patterns of inertia have become entrenched, and that's the way that we continue every day, day after day. It wants us to see the boundaries that keep us captive. And it wants us to ask, who the hell set those boundaries? And then to understand how we have conspired to keep those boundaries. I'm not talking about healthy boundaries here. I'm talking about confining ourselves to a set of rules, methods of living. And this moment is full of tension because we're starting to see our potential. We're starting to see the inherent power. And then we're starting to see those shackles and chains that are holding us back. Chains that don't allow us to live our truth. And the revelation of the Sun is about breaking through these bounds and limitations. Bounds that we have come to accept as facts of our lives. And I do want to draw your attention to something freaking incredible during this transit of Sun through Aries, which is the Sun is doing the revelation, but the Sun is not going to propel us to action. The planet that's going to do that is actually Mars when Mars enters the sign of Aries. Right now, the Sun is setting up the stage for the Mars within us to be able to act shortly. The Sun first needs to illuminate some very uncomfortable facts about who we've become and who we are right now. And this is the incredible part. So the Sun's going to do all of this, is going to continue to go on, but the Sun is actually exalted at a particular degree. It's an exaltation degree, which is 20 degrees of Aries. And this is the part that gives me goosebumps. As soon as the Sun hits 20 degrees, that is the same moment where Mars enters into its own domain, realm, and kingdom in the sign of Aries. It's almost as if The king has set the stage. Now Mars, the general of the king, is coming to carry out its orders. So right now, the sun is illuminating the shiny chains of our bounds. It's casting its light on the darkness of Saturn, and it's forcing Saturn to reveal all of its cards. And then once when we can see what the sun was trying to illuminate, Mars is coming back. This is our will. This is our initiative. This is our courage. And with the sun still being here, which is about responsibility and reliability, this is about taking the reins of our life and ourselves to direct our lives in a way that is true and authentic to the soul of who and what we are. And I want you to realize something. When we talk about astrology, transits, when you put them in the context of a life that is unfolding, we're not talking about something happens now, you get the results. Now, one of the reasons why I try to put these transits in the context of an ongoing narrative, because how many videos have you watched? And someone's told you, this is the week that you will meet the love of your life. This is the week that someone's going to die. And then none of those things happen. But if you understand the underlying meaning in the ongoing narrative of life, and you're watching your own becoming, you'll see how all of these transits are actually connected. And with this one too, this is not like sun's going to make you see, and then tomorrow you're going to change. I want you to keep in mind, this sun is going to come back again next year and meet Saturn again. It's almost like we're reality testing and stress testing something. We're going to practice until we arrive to what it is that the sun is trying to do. But the initiation is occurring now. And I want you to know that this Saturn within us that's now being represented in the sign of Aries is also going through its transformations. Because if we get the courage to change certain facets of our lives in the times ahead, the Saturn within us, even Saturn needs to mature to a certain extent. We need to get that Saturn within us on board. We need that Saturn function. It's almost as if the sun right now and Mars, it's going to be so dignified in the sign of Aries because this is its own sign. And it can actually help Saturn. We're understanding not only how to initiate with that Mars, and not only how to rule with that sun, but how to align the Saturn to stand behind us and to endure the hardships that the sun and Mars are going to also bringing our way. And endurance is going to be needed, Saturn's endurance, because freedom is difficult. We have a difficult path ahead. I want you to think back at all human beings in history who were fighting for their freedom. When you read their biography, it was anything but an easy life. But it was a life worth living because the destination was the right and the truthful kind of freedom. So just as much as we need Sun and Mars right now to arrive to the truth and to fight for the truth, we also need Saturn online for the forbearance of that truth. And again, we're going to give ourselves time because this is a journey. It's a long path, but it's a journey that has begun and it's a journey worth being on. And we have to understand, we're talking about Aries, a new beginning. So what we choose to move towards will be shaping what comes up next. And we've gotten to the end of the video. And before concluding it, I do like to leave us with a wish. And my wish for this time is that we understand our own courage to see clearly, even when clarity disrupts everything. And I hope that we learn to distinguish the difference between what suits us and what frees us. And that when the moment comes, when we have to choose, we choose truth, even if it costs us our comfort. And I'm making this wish because our souls should have a life experience that resembles itself and its essence. And that's it for today. Sending you much love. Till next time.